Alright, welcome back to the SuperCoach Nuff channel. In this video, we're going to review round 1 of the 2026 AFL SuperCoach season. So this week was an okay week for myself. Scored 22.56, which would have thought was a solid start, but it was only good enough for top 25%. So we're ranked about 44k out of almost 175,000 teams. So yeah, a good starting point. Obviously, room for improvement. But we'll have a look at the team and we'll see how they went. So in defence this week, we had Jack Sinclair score a 123. So he's got a nice break even going into this week. We'll start increasing in price. So if you did want to get him, you got one more chance, I think, and then you got to wait a while. Connor Rozee with a 105. Solid at the price. We're happy with that. The mid prices, Blackiston and Windsor, probably didn't quite get to where we would like them to be. 62 and 70 respectively. So break even of 50 for Blackiston. Windsor's a little bit better at 38. But we'll give them another chance before prices change for them. We're not too concerned just yet. Grill with 73 was quite good at the cheap price. Sarong with 54 was okay. Obviously, Jake's with 80 would have been better, but we take what we can get. And Lindsay with 61 was perfectly fine to start the season. In the midfield, you might notice a bit of a difference. So I don't know what brought me to it, but I ended up going with Noah Anderson. Brought in an extra midfielder, so you can see Butters ended up down in the flex. So I did go a bit thinner in defence. I think I had Tom McCarthy there. And I had a bit of cash sitting there, and I just thought, well, could probably upgrade McCarthy to a rolled gold midfield option. And I was very scared of Gold Coast fixture with Anderson. So I brought him in, scored a 132. I'll be honest, I forgot to check what McCarthy got in round 1. We'll have a quick look. So he only scored an 86. So I think that was justified after 1 week. We'll call it early Anderson was the right call. Sarong was massive though with a 150. Errol Goulden scored a 112, but unfortunately dislocated his shoulder and did just see a report that he is going to have surgery. So he is a must trade this week. Sam Walsh with a 96. Okay start on the bye this week, so we'll just hold. Hayden Young with an 80. Again, sort of that mid-price option. Wanted a little bit more out of him. But the break-even still suggests he's on the way to make some cash. Excuse me. Darcy Parish with 93 was quite good. We did bring in Tanner Broon. Was a little bit iffy on it, but he repaid the faith with a 110. So he's going to make some money when he plays next. Jagger Smith, first official score, and he cracks off a 113. Love to see it at the bottom dollar. And then Sharp apparently didn't get much game time for his 57. So might be a hold if he can extend on that. Carroll with a 59, maybe impacted by the Philippou injury, not too sure. And then Blamira 70 on debut at bottom dollar. Pretty good start to his AFL and SuperCoach career. In the rucks, Grundy, a little bit underwhelming with only an 89, particularly given McAndrew at about a sixth of the price, got 88. ZZ Top, I saw DR call him, so I'm going to go with that too. 62 at R3, happy with that. And then up front, Sheasel with 134, Petrarca 152 as expected, Flanders tonned up. So the forward guns went well. Butterick with a 73, obviously not a ton, but at his price, we're happy with that. Philippou, as has been mentioned, has copped a quad injury. Not sure the time frame on that. But Yeah, given the forward stocks, we might not need him at the moment anyway. Lombard with a 55 was good. Was okay, I should say. On the bench was good though. Marshall with a 90, Dev Rob with a 105. So yeah, we should have played Dev Rob, but we followed the pack a bit and went with Lombard. And Butters as captain, 94 was a bit disappointing as well. So I guess between Butters captain, Grundy in R1, and just the mid price is not popping off. Probably a bit of a slow start there. Uh, in terms of the game day, there wasn't any head-to-head matchups this week, um, but we can see the scores. And on top is Katrina's team on stacked. Good for you. 24.05 this week. So I had the bonk for a 160. So at Marvel, that was probably to be expected. But just with that, should be pointed out that he doesn't have another game there for a few weeks. So yeah, round one at Marvel. So travelling to Adelaide, then has a bye, then back at Marvel in round four. So you may want to get him off the bye. Um, but then also, if you can sort of ride that wave, a couple of aways before a good run at Marvel. So if you can't get to him straight away, make plans to get him in round seven. Um, Elsewhere, Jackson with a 142, Dacos with a 126, Captain Cherry. So a pretty traditional looking team with the two rucks, Dacos and Bont in the mids. And obviously that paid dividends this week, so well done. Um, Played Dev Rob as well, which was nice. So yeah, so well done, Katrina. In the Open League, probably a few more teams. So number one, Shano's team on top with a 24.56. Can't read there for a second, but took the VC on Bont, which is pretty nice. Had Tim English for 127 and Cherry. So the dual rucks was the way to go potentially. But just looking at the rest of the team, yeah, nothing below a 75 for Jai Clark. But we had lots of the same players, which was nice, but just a couple of the big dogs going off. You love to see it. Let's look at other players that went big this week. So Bont, Petrarca, Sarong, we talked about Jackson, Wayne Miller. So mid price defender, 142. Well done to the 469 players that picked him. Max Holmes with a 141. So solid 120 average going into the bye. Max Hall with a 141. So that was on top of what's that, 79 in round one. So on the bubble this week, if you want to go mid price forward, Zach Merritt with a 139 was good. Jared Witts dominated the West Coast Rucks, 137. Um, Parker, Lockie Ash, good solid keeper option in defence. So a couple of the mid-price midfielders at North went well, and they've got the West Coast this week, so it could be an interesting shout for next week. Um, Houston might be another one to look at. 132 this week, so averaging 113. Mid-price defender. But yeah, I think the main takeaway from the scores was the rucks. Max score 122. I think the new ruck rules haven't really affected the guys this much. So in saying that, that's going to be my trade this week. Goulden is out. Push Butters up, and then we can punch. Actually, I'll go by average because some players have played two games. We'll put Luke Jackson in the ruck. So that little bit of extra cash, saving the day for us, getting that second ruck in. So we'll complete the trade. So I still got pretty stacked midfield, albeit a few of them on the bye this week. But we can now put McAndrew in the flex, which is pretty handy. Just makes the team look a bit nicer. Philippou, we'll just wait and see. we can play these guys. I might even also put Dev Rob on field. Albeit the Gold Coast do have a nice matchup again against Richmond this week. Albeit they pushed Carlton all the way. So does that say more about Carlton or Richmond? Not too sure. Um, but I think for now we'll set up like this. He does have the first game two out of them all. So if he does go good, we can sub out. Filippo's probably not playing. Sub him in. Um, we can make something work there, I think. But elsewhere, we don't have a R3 this week, which is fine. Um, yeah, filling the bench with buy options this week in the mids. And then defence is as good as. So uh, surely Jakes has got to get a run, averaging 80 to start. I think maybe just swap with Sarongi. He plays first, so there's always the option of trading there if need be. But we'll try and save a trade for next week. We can do three with the boost. Um, I guess targets, I probably didn't talk about that before with the high price options. But in terms of cheap options, you've got Murdoch, scored a 110 on debut. Bottom dollar, midfield only. You know, if he goes good again this week, we'll find a way to get him in. Other than that, got a lot of the main cash gen guys. Selwood's going okay, only scored 38 this week, but could use him in defence. Potentially, if Philippou is out for a while, someone like a Roses could come in as a forward cheapie, even make a little bit of cash off that trade. The other option is Braden Cook scored a 92 in the first game. Dual position is nice as well. So, um, yeah, just waiting for a bit more news on Philippou. But if he is out for a few weeks, I think him to Cook could be a great option. In saying that, happy to do it next week because this week is best 18. Um, so we don't necessarily need Cook's score in the forward line. So we'll have another look and we'll go from there. But at the moment, yeah, Cook and Murdoch very much on the radar. Um, yeah, maybe another option jumps out. Like Rogers scored a 96. He might become a must have if he goes good again. Albeit the Suns will be on the buy in round three. So probably not an urgent trade in next week. Yeah, Bruce Revell might be one for next week too. Pair of 70s to start the season. Yeah, have a look at some of these other guys like Condo Giannis, Watkins. If they have a big week in week two, their break even will be better for the run. Riley Bice averaging 96, -2 at mid price. Don't hate that option. Willem Dersma started with a 78. So, yeah, definitely some good cheapy options. But yeah, I think at the moment that's the play. In terms of vice captain and captain, so you've got Sydney on Thursday night. So Grundy is a good shout for vice captain. Obviously, if you've got the Bont Friday night in Adelaide, worth a look. Could do Noah Anderson as well early Saturday, just depending on who you've got playing late in the round. And then captaincy. So I might even be a Anderson captainer if Grundy doesn't do it. Because after that, you've got Freo Melbourne. So Jackson against Gawn. Um, is interesting. See how that goes. You know, Butters, can he bounce back against Essendon? I think the big one, if you've got Tristan Cherry, he's going to do a number on the West Coast Rocks, isn't he? Surely. So I'm very scared about not owning Cherry. So much so that the 2 grand might help me swap out Grundy. No, it doesn't. He's 10k extra. Can't even do that. So yeah, so very scared of fading Cherry this week. Um, but it is what it is. Yeah, so I think that's going to be the team going into this week. I guess I don't know, you can use these extra emergencies. Don't know if that's worthwhile. Um, but yeah, that's going to be the team. So as always, if you've got any questions, comments, thoughts, feel free to add them below this video. Give us a like if you enjoy the AFL content. Subscribe for all the fantasy sports content on the channel. And other than that, we'll catch you in the next one.